What up, guys? Welcome back to the channel, man. Today we're going to be doing some work on the Blazer. Now, we've done a lot to this thing over the course of the last year and a half. It's a completely different animal. So I got this Blazer as a shell. This thing had no engine, no transmission in it whatsoever. If you guys have been with the channel for a while, you know the entire interior used to be blue. I went through and completely repainted and yeah, pretty much painted. Everything got paint. So we completely blacked out the interior. What the? When I got the Blazer, the entire engine bay obviously was empty because there's no engine and trans, but there was like spray paint. And the engine bay was blue, and then things were like spray painted and stuff from a previous owner. I mean, absolutely freaking everything. It took a lot to get rid of the spray paint. We color matched all the door jambs because, well, the door jambs were like Park Ranger green for whatever reason. And of course, the biggest thing of all is we put a 5.3 liter LS out of a Tahoe into the Blazer. The engine up to this point has been 100% stock, you know? It's got headers, and is there anything else? No, it's just headers. I do want to change that. I do have a cam to put in the Blazer. I'd also like to either put it on nitrous or turbo. I haven't 100% decided yet, but the one thing that I do know is currently it is running on a stock ECU, in which I know HP tuners and all that kind of stuff, but I don't want to go that route. I have a Holley to install on the Blazer. Not only, not from personal experience, I've heard that HP tuners is very difficult to learn how to use and operate. But another thing that I've always had a problem with the Blazer is the only thing that works up here is my battery voltage. That's absolutely it. I don't know the temperature. I don't know how fast I'm going. I don't know RPM. I don't know oil pressure. I don't know freaking nothing. Nothing. I'm driving blind whenever I'm driving this damn thing. So that is what I would like to fix today, because the biggest thing for me is I'm tired of driving this thing and not knowing what temperature it's at, you know? Whoa. I ended up picking up a Holley TerminatorX system for the Blazer. This is gonna be the new brains of the operation, man. A lot of you guys already know about this. We purchased this quite a long time ago. I don't know, probably like 6 months ago. I've just been kind of sitting on it, waiting for the time to be right. Today, we are gonna be working towards getting this thing installed. But before we can do anything with any of this stuff, I need to get all of the old stuff off of the Blazer. So the engine harness has to come off, the stock ECU has to come out, and this door is locked. That's like the third time I've tried to open this door. You guys want to know because it more likely got cut out. But that's like the third time I've tried to open that damn door in this video. Unlock, motherfucking stupid son of a bitch. So removing the stock ECU is what I am mostly worried about, because if I remember correctly, I bolted that son-of-a-bitch up in there. And I did so when the truck did not have a dash in here. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to act like I haven't seen, oh, there it is. I haven't seen the ECU since I put the dash in, you know? I don't know, I might be able to get that out of there without taking the dash out. We'll find out for sure, but one thing I will say is I feel like I need to redo basically everything. So not only the engine harness, ECU, I need to figure out a new place to mount the new ECU. Make sure it's gonna be mounted good. You know, it's gotta be good. I gotta redo the alternator wiring. I don't know, I gotta look this up, because what's weird is the engine harness that's on here is from eBay. It did not come with the plug for the alternator, and I don't know why. A lot of you guys probably do. You can put it in the comments down below. But even the Holley doesn't come with a plug for the alternator. You have to buy that separate. So I have a separate wire here to run to the damn alternator. And that is another problem that I am hoping to fix with all of this, is my battery always goes dead. And that is the reason, one of the reasons why I ended up putting the kill switch on here. So that anytime I'm not driving it, I just hit the kill switch, cut all the power to the truck, and then I don't have to worry about it going dead. But the reason why it's going dead, because there for a little while, I couldn't figure it out. One day I was working on it and I heard the buzzing sound coming from the alternator. So whenever I go and put that switch in back there, the alternator is just on 24/7. It just always has a buzzing sound coming from it, and I don't know why. So hopefully whenever we do this, that fixes that problem also, and I don't have to worry about my damn battery dying all the time. Anyhow, I'm gonna go ahead and put this away for now, because today it's all about disassembly and we have a whole lot of it to do. Went ahead and I popped the hood off so that, you know, it's easier to see what's going on inside of here. The hood kind of blocks a lot of the light in here. Got it up there out of the way. So now next step is I'm gonna start working on the engine harness. I know the engine harness passes through the firewall right there. It's got a little rubber grommet. Dude, I gotta be honest with you. This eBay harness has done me really well. I haven't had a single problem with it. It's a really nice harness. It's just, you know, I never got around to really finishing up getting all my cluster stuff working. But either way, the Holley is going to be a huge upgrade. Self-tuning. It's also, from what I understand, a lot easier to learn how to tune yourself. Comes with a wideband, and boy, this thing's going to have launch control. I really hope that we're going to be able to clean all this madness up. I think that the Holley engine harness is a lot more like hidden and doesn't have all this bulkiness going on, but who knows, man? We're gonna find out for sure. Another thing are these fuel lines, in which we are also going to be redoing here pretty soon. I want to run solid A line all the way back and get rid of these stock fuel rails, but that's going to be another project in the future. Anyhow, I just remembered that I'm pretty sure I got to take my damn starter off to get this engine harness completely off. That's fun. Unplug. Alright, got most of the harness all undone. From what I can tell, I need to jack it up. There is a speed sensor that is sitting on top of my transmission that I never did hook up. I just had it down there. Figured I'd figure it out later or something. It's just zip tied down there. I got to get that. And we also have to pull the starter off. I got to get the crank position sensor, and the power wires for this harness is actually bolted to the power wire on the starter. Yeah, I definitely need this thing higher. Alright, so now I've got absolutely every single bit of the harness. It's all bundled up right here on the fender well, and then it all leads up right to that pigtail that goes through the firewall. And this grommet, in which this grommet came on the harness also. I had to cut a hole, or actually there was already a hole there, if I remember correctly. But yeah, this was a really nice harness, dude. I can't say that enough. I really don't have any complaints about it. Anyhow, now we need to move on into there. Hopefully, like I was predicting, that I might be able to access the ECU without removing the dash. Fingers crossed. Alright, so here's where that wiring was coming through the firewall on the other side. And then I just had all this extra just kind of tucked in over here and behind this plastic panel. And then it's going up and plugging into my ECU. I completely forgot about this fuse box right here. Luckily, I never had a fuse pop or anything. I'd have been like, what the hell? Dude, I literally forgot I put that there. Yeah, then this is outputs from that fuse box. One of them is going to be a constant power in, I believe. There should be a constant, there should be a remote for the fuel pump, and then there should also be a switch power, like ignition power. I just need a mark. I gotta figure out which one of these were, and I need to mark them because I'm probably going to more than likely need all that for the Holley as well. Anyhow, then there's this is going up. I don't know what that was. Oh, I remember what that was. That's a little OBD tort. I just had it up here so that I could plug into it. I never really mounted that. From the beginning, I always planned on putting a Holley inside of this truck. So that's kind of why none of this stuff really got too terribly finalized, you know what I'm saying? Because another thing that this harness came with is this pigtail right here. So all of these wires right here, this is what I would have used to connect to my factory gauge cluster. I watched a lot of videos. I'm sure if I really tried, I could have got it figured out, but I'm probably still gonna have to do that with the Holley if I do want like the factory gauge cluster to work, of course. But at least with the Holley, we're gonna have the little screen that will tell us our oil pressure, coolant temperature, and literally everything just about. And eventually I'll upgrade to a larger screen and you can actually build your own gauge cluster on it and stuff. But anyhow, I'm talking. I'm gonna figure out, I think these are all 7/16 of an inch bolts. I need to go and grab some tools and get that thing unbolted because I can't even get to the plug. Can you guys see the plugs? Because I can't see them. All right, ECU is unbolted, fuse box is unbolted. I took the screws out of this plastic panel because I need it out of my freaking way. Come on, plastic panel. Dude, why? Do I gotta take the dash out, take the plastic panel out? Trust the process. Okay. Thank you, plastic panel. That is painted gloss black, which should have been satin black, but whatever. I had to get that out because there is just this one ground right here that is left that is holding me back. I ain't gonna lie, I did a really good job installing all this shit. It was all in here real tight like. The hole that just keeps on giving. Yeah, buddy. Gotta pull it in through this way because the fuse box wouldn't fit out that way, you know? Alright, some time has passed and I am still sitting here messing with all this crap. So I really should have labeled things, and moving forward, that's what I'm gonna do right now. I just need to simply figure out what is the power wire, the ground. No, there's no ground. There's a power wire, there's a ignition power, and then there is a power that is running to my fuel pump. And I need to figure out of this mess which one of those is which. And I've tried tracing them and I'm coming up with nothing. I busted out the old power sending unit. Dude, I can't even think what this is called right now. Look, it's really freaking cold in Arizona right now and I can't even think straight. All right, let's send power to this. That is fuel pump. Yep, that's fuel pump. So that big blue wire is fuel pump. And what the hell is this? Oh, those are my fans. The hell? That's the so this is the signal wire for the fans. There's two of them because there's two fans. That's the fuel pump. And that makes this the main power coming in. That's why it has a fuse on it. I was kind of assuming that. This should be 12 volt. Yep, 12 volt. So where the hell do I get my ignition power at? There's gotta be ignition power somewhere. Ugh. All right. Well, I figured out these. Now I can disconnect those. All right, signal for the fan, signal for the fuel pump, and that was the 12 volt. I'm just gonna disconnect that where it's running from. The Holley has a new wire that I'm gonna run all the way to that little stud that I have that supplies power. But anyhow, what's up? Completely freaking disconnected. Bow, sucker. And no, I'm not getting rid of that. I'm gonna put it up for future swaps. I know somebody's gonna ask, yo, let me get that harness. As well as the ECU. It's gonna go out there in the storage. So if I need it in the future, I've got it. All right, we got all of that removed from the Blazer last night. The factory ECU, and which this is unlocked with the vats removed and all that kind of stuff. And then this is a LS1 eBay harness. Like I've mentioned, all this served me really well. But for what we're wanting to do with the Blazer, it's time for an upgrade. So I'm thinking we're probably going to start on the engine harness. Now, one thing that I am kind of curious about, I don't know if this harness has a grommet that goes through the firewall the way that that one did. If not, I'm probably going to go ahead and rob this one if I can get it off there without cutting it. I mean, because this harness had that big old grommet which fit perfectly in the firewall. Yeah, we're going to need something like that on this also. But anyhow, let's get this unwrapped and just get our eyes on it and see where we need to start. Alright, so this is the main engine harness. This is going to be all of our sensors and coil packs and all that stuff, all the way up to where it plugs into the ECU. This, I believe, ground, ignition. So we got to supply ignition power here. We got a ground there we have to hook up. Over here we have 12 volt. That's going to be constant power. This is the output for the fuel pump. And this is an output for attack. And then we have the other harnesses over here. This is going to be a output harness. So right now the only thing I'm going to be using on this is for my fans, in which Braven went through. As you guys know, Braven's already installed one of these on his truck. He went through and labeled all of these for me just to kind of make today go a little bit quicker. This is fan number 1 and fan number 2. Those are the signal wires for it. And then the rest of the outputs we'll get into later, whether we use it for nitrous or whatever, you know what I'm saying? But for now, we just need the fans off of that. This, ooh, that's our wideband O2 sensor. And then this is the sub harness for the fuel injectors, which is really cool that Holley does that. So now, if you guys are familiar with like the factory harness for these LS engines, they have a sub harness for the coil packs here. So as you can see, all the coil pack wiring is still on there. All 4 of the coil packs are all wired into one clip. So the engine harness plugs into one clip. You don't have to run and route all those individual clips. What Holley has done is basically that exact same thing with the fuel injectors. And that is huge for the reason being that if you ever do need to remove the intake manifold for whatever reason, you know, you could be at the track and need to pull your intake manifold for something, you know, you don't have to unplug each individual injector. You have just one harness, one plug to unplug to remove your entire intake manifold. But yeah, that should clean things up a lot, help with routing. So anyhow, my starting point here is, honestly, I need to figure out where I'm going to put the ECU. And I'm thinking I'm going to go ahead and just mount it to the back side of the firewall in here, the same place that we had the other ECU, because it stays nice and dry right there. It's a good place where nobody's going to kick it, and it's relatively accessible. And we already have an access hole inside of our firewall for all the wiring to pass through. That's actually perfect. I'm going to figure out exactly how much length that I have on this and make sure everything is going to reach and stuff. But for the most part, that's the plan. We're just going to jab this through the firewall into where the ECU is going to go. And then we got to start routing this to all the sensors and everything. And that's pretty much step 1. Alright, so since I don't have a big old fuse box attached to this thing, I'm thinking we could probably fit it through this direction instead of having to slide all of that harness out. We had to do the last one. It's just this one relay that might have a problem fitting, but we'll see. Oh, I gotta get that grommet. Yeah, I should probably figure that grommet out first. Gotta hope I don't cut that thing to get it off. Alright, let's figure that out first, damn it. Yeah. Alright, so so this isn't taped or attached to the harness at all. It'll slide. But to go this way, I would have to make it over an entire fuse box and the clips for the damn ECU. That's not going to happen. And then to slide the other way, I have to go over the whole entire length of this engine harness. which looks a little bit more capable of being done. For the most part, each individual clip will fit through it, but I'd have to go each individual clip at a time, which honestly I think is what I'm gonna have to do, because I don't want to cut it. As soon as you cut it, it's not gonna seal, you know? Oh my God, this is gonna suck. All right, I'll be back with you guys in a moment. Oh my God, that was some work, man. I got that thing all the way off of the old harness, and then I got it slid on to the Holley harness. I went this direction, so I had to get those two big old connectors, and I pulled the relay off, and I pulled the fuse cover and the fuse off, and I was able to squeeze all those things through it, and I got it this far. I don't know what these are. I'm sure I'll find out eventually. These are probably like add-ons for something. But this is going to be the area right here, somewhere in here, where this is going to be going through the firewall. And all the wiring, so that 12 volt continuous battery power, and then this is for, no, this one's for the fuel pump signal. And what was the blue one? Oh, the blue one is for the tachometer. So all of these are coming out right here. I am estimating that the firewall is probably going to be like right around here-ish. You know what I'm saying? I know the firewall ain't going to be right here. Well, it might be. I don't know yet. But if you look down here where it's coming out, that is really close to the exhaust. So I don't want my harness, obviously, to get burnt. So it's going to come out and it's going to stay against the firewall and run straight up here. And then that's where it'll disperse and start going to sensors and stuff. So I don't want a whole lot of it out here. I don't know. Either way, I'm not sure exactly where it's going to be, but I do know that I want these wires on the inside of the truck. That's where I'm running my 12 volt, and that's where I have my signal for my fuel pump and everything at. So I'm pulling these wires through the harness, and I'm going to get them more over here on this side, because we have all of this that's going to be underneath the dash, you know what I'm saying? So I'd rather get these a little bit further away from where I think it's going to poke out of the firewall. And if I remember correctly, I'm pretty certain that Braven had to do this on his truck also, but at first he had just ran the wires back through and then tried to poke it through the grommet, and he had to put wire loom and everything on it. So, and then eventually he ended up just running it back through the harness the way that I'm doing right now. I think it's going to be better just to get them further this direction before we go and install everything. Now I'm just going to find the blue wire. Alright, now it is ready. We got our grommet installed. We have all of this area right here that is free to us to figure out where it's going to actually rest inside of the firewall. I have these 3 power fuel pump and tachometer wires now going forward and coming out of the loom, nice and clean right there with these guys. And I started to kind of tape them up, and I'll continue to do that, but I just don't know how long these are going to need to be underneath the dash. But yeah, everything is now ready to go ahead and go through the firewall. Good Lord, I've already been working on this thing for an hour now. Alright, that's everything that's coming inside of here. Got a couple wires to hook up, and other than that, just that plugs into the ECU. And we got to connect our fuel pump, we got to connect our fans, we have to connect we have a ground, and we have ignition power, constant power. Just basic, easy stuff. Other than that, this plugs into the ECU. And we also have a separate harness that's the power for the ECU that's got to run directly to the battery. I'm hoping that that harness is going to be long enough, because as you guys know, my battery's all the way in the back. And then you come around to the front of the firewall, and then there's our grommet. Our grommet will plug into the firewall there, and then everything else is just all plug and play, dude. This is all just sensors. Stuff just got to be plugged in. Alright, got the harness ran. I will say right now that there are some things that I'm not 100% happy with. Now, for one, they want you to connect, they have 2 grounds that go on the back of the engine. They want those connected to the heads. I can on this side, but I had already connected that ground to where the ground normally goes. into the top of the block, you know? This side, I don't know if you guys remember, but I had a freeze plug fiasco where one freeze plug was popping right after another, right? So that one, I couldn't get to the freeze plug itself, so I ended up making a plate that is the size of the entire front of the head. And then I reached my hand back there and cleaned it. And then that plate, I took a bunch of RTV and just all over it. I think it was Honda Bond actually. Reached back there and just sandwiched that son of a bitch on there, bro. And put 4 bolts in it just to seal that damn freeze plug. Because my options were take the engine out to do it or pull the head to do it. Or I guess drill a big hole in the firewall to access it. I don't know. That was a mess. Anyhow, long story short, I don't have access to those holes on that head in order to put the ground there. So I found another spot on the block back there. And so I have both grounds on. I think the reason why that they want you to go to the heads is because the heads are aluminum and it's not gonna rust. Maybe that's it. Like over time, corrosion happens inside of the iron block and affects the ground, you know? But I will say, we will fix that in the future. So, as you guys know, I have a cam for this, and whenever I do the cam, I gotta pull the heads, and I'm gonna fix that problem back there. Then we'll ground it correctly. There's that, and then also I have a couple of plugs here. This is manifold air temperature. I do not have that sensor on my engine. I was watching some videos and found how people are putting the MAT sensor on these manifolds. I'll probably have to do that in the future. It replaces this guy right here. This has to come out. You have to Dremel and do some things. We'll cover that in the future. And then this one is for fuel. This is so that you can put a fuel pressure sensor in line in your fuel system. Obviously, I don't have that right now either, but that is something that I'll definitely add in the future as well. So I think that's it, dude. Those are the only issues that I ran into. I still have not ran the injector harness. I'm gonna do that next, as well as I need to kind of just tuck these down. Oh, another thing, just for sake of the harness looking nice, I have it tucked back here. It wasn't until after that I realized that this is in behind my fuel rails. So if I ever want to take the intake manifold off, remember earlier I was saying that's going to be really convenient now because the injector harness is separate and you can just unplug it. Well, now I have my entire harness running through there, and yeah, I would have to undo the harness in order to remove my intake manifold with it running back there. So I do need to, in the future, put my harness back on this side. But that's another thing. I have a high-rise Holley manifold that we'll be installing on this in the future, so I will deal with that then. So there's a whole lot of temporariness going on, but I'm trying to do this stuff in stages. I want to put the Holley on here first so I can get all my troubleshooting and everything out of the way, you know, get it running and driving and put some miles on it before I go tearing into everything else. So once I get the Holley finished, then we'll move on to the engine upgrades, you know. But moving on, I'm going to go ahead and do the injector sub-harness right now. And then we'll have to go inside and start figuring out the actual cabin harness portion of this. So this is our sub-harness for the fuel injectors. It is, this is the odd side and then the even side. So the odd side goes on the driver's side, even side goes on the passenger side. And you have a clip right here, just plugs into the engine harness. Bam! Oh, nice and strong clip on that bad boy. All right, send all the odd numbers that way, even numbers this way. Now I just gotta route all this stuff through. And by the way, I'm gonna go ahead and leave all these tags on here for the time being. That says cylinder 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all that. Later I'll take that off just to get a cleaner look. But for the time being, I'm gonna go ahead and leave those on there. And I'm not going to tuck this too crazy because, like I said, this is all going to get undone here in the near future. Alright, coming in here next, man. Good freaking Lord. I honestly think that we are pretty close to done. Okay, maybe not, but we have some wires to connect, and we also have some wires to plug into the ECU. But before I get too far ahead of myself, we need to actually grab the ECU out of here. I haven't even looked at exactly how this thing mounts, so I need to get kind of a basic idea of where it is I'm going to set this thing before I can decide where I'm going to route wires. You know what I'm saying? Oh, another thing is I guess this needs a, yeah, it needs a vacuum line ran to it. I have no idea where I'm putting that at yet. Oh, wow, look. There's actually little spots to put mounting bolts or screws. Dude, this thing is super freaking light. Probably really fragile, too. I probably shouldn't do that. Anyhow, there are some lights on here, but I guess it's good to be able to access this well enough that if you're troubleshooting something, you're able to see these lights. I really don't know where that's going to be, because putting this under the dash where I had the last ECU, I guess I could set up a mirror. Like if I'm ever Jessica said that earlier, like kind of joking, was, oh, you just set up a mirror. But if I did mount this in there and I had it sitting like that, I could just kind of set a mirror on the floorboard to be able to see the lights, you know. But then again, I was also kind of thinking I could just mount this thing
in your glove box,
something like that.
Oh, look at that shelf I told you about.
Well, you were saying to put it on the shelf.
You know, around the shelf area.
But if since this has the ability to be through bolted, I mean, this side is flat. It'd be more ideal to mount it like this, but then the lights would be upside down, which I guess ain't a huge deal, right? Because it's just the little numbers on there. It's legible this way, but that's not flat. If you flip it this way where it's flat to mount underneath the dash, then those numbers are upside down. I guess that doesn't really matter, right?
What about well, you don't want it visible, too visible. What about where your
I think that'd be a dope-ass spot to mount it.
Agree.
I can just send some through bolts all the way through the dash and just put some washers right here.
You know how valuable that shelf is to some, though.
Oh, this dash is screwed, so. I mean, maybe if it was like a pristine, perfect condition dash.
Send it.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Or your radio goes.
I was thinking that too, but.
And then you can get a slim fit radio.
Well, honestly, I'll never have.
You wanted to block it off, right?
If I ever do air conditioning on this in the future, I'm going to do an aftermarket electric AC thing, and those have like little AC ducts that you mount down here. So I'd probably never use these. So realistically, I could mount this in a way to where I'm able to see the front of the ECU, like make a block off plate that just has this that sticks through, and then I'd have all that open for, I don't know, like switches.
Or you can take out your vents and put it right there in that little pocket right there and make a little shelf.
So, well, I'm talking about cutting this, get rid of the vents, just make this a big square open hole, and then make a piece of aluminum, flat piece of aluminum that just blocks it off. That I can like paint black or something.
No, a copper plate.
Oh, copper would be sick. And then I could just cut a section to where this just protrudes out the front enough to where you're able to see the lights, you know.
Too bad they didn't have like those in-dash kits, but for the Holley, so it just clips in.
They do. Well, for the ECU portion, yeah. I don't know, but they do make them
for the screen.
For the gauge cluster, to where they actually have a 3D printed gauge cluster bezel that goes in here that holds the screen.
Ooh.
Do not want to lose my ashtray, which I don't even use. I just remembered it was there. I can actually put change in that.
Oh my god, that would never work for
Baby
you.
was telling me to put the ECU in the glove box, and I'm like, this is literally the only place that you have to put things inside of the Blazer. I mean, you got the little side pockets, but no center console. I mean, there's the, you know, with the lid. Shove shit. I need a place to shove shit other than baby.
Junk drawer.
That's what baby's here for, to shove shit inside of her.
Jump into your dance.
Oh, hell yeah. Why is the sun up still, but yet you can see the fucking moon?
You know what that means, right?
Conspiracy theorists, how about the comments? All right, for starters, there's my little screen. So I seen somewhere, I think it was on Facebook a while back, that somebody actually 3D prints that panel, the AC panel right here, which I'm missing. They 3D print one that's just bare, and it screws in factory location, and it has the spot for this. I don't know where it's at, but anyhow, that's what I'm going to end up making. Not in this video. Right now I'm just trying to get this thing installed and get it running in this video. A lot of finalizing is going to have to be done in another video, or else I'll be here for a week. But yeah, I'm going to make something cool to have it kind of sitting right there. And I think you just seen our conversation. I think I'm going to go ahead and mount the ECU right here. Anyhow, moving on. I got to get this wiring finished. So this is driving me nuts because I have 2 wires here. This is ignition power and a ground. And then we have those wires down here that were further that way, if you guys remember, which would have been in the engine bay. That's why I moved them. So this is continuous power, output for the fuel pump, and then, output for the fuel pump, and then the blue wires for the tack. In which I don't have a tack, but I'll get a tack someday. Anyhow, I have to hook up these wires and I have to hook up these wires, and they're on complete opposite sides of this harness that we have here. So what I'm doing is I'm undoing the harness, peeling off all their electrical tape. I want to pull these wires through. I think the ground, yeah, the ground is coming from that direction. So I got to pull the ground out, but this continuous power, or ignition switch power wire is coming from this direction, so I need to feed it through here. But I want to get all these wires over here to where they are all coming out of the same place. All the wires I have to run to something, you know what I mean? Just to make this a lot more easy and organized. I think that's a really important thing whenever it comes to wiring, is for it to be somewhat organized, and it coming out of 2 separate sides of this damn harness is not going to work for me, bro. I might end up having to go and buy electrical tape because we can't find any.
Haven't checked Lily's room yet, so
That's probably where it's at, honestly. I think Braven has some hiding in his room. I think he bought one of those big packs and he just brings one out whenever there's not any out here. I know, little son of a bitch. I ought to take all the cutting discs into my bedroom and just bring one out whenever there's no one out. All right, I got this all to where all the wires are coming out of one spot now, and that is just freaking 100 times cleaner than what it was, rather than half of them coming out way up here, you know what I'm saying? So now what it is I'm needing to do, I have some studs on the firewall that are my constant power. I'll show you in a second. So this wire right here, this one was coming, this wire was the constant 12 volt that was going to that fuse box that was on the other harness. I just snipped it because I'm going to need to disconnect it out there, and we're going to run our constant power out there where that wire is going, which is right here. This is like a little distribution block, right? This was actually factory. This was here when this thing was brand new. I think it was like AC stuff that hooked to that. So currently this gets 12 volts, as you can see. That is a constant 12 volt. This stud right here gets absolutely nothing whatsoever. What I'm going to do is actually turn that into my ignition power stud. So the one on the bottom is constant 12. It has 12 volts right now, and then this one is going to have power whenever the ignition is on. That way I can run the ignition power wire that needs to go to that harness. I can just run it out through this grommet with the rest of this stuff and just come up here to the ignition power. There's one more thing that also needs to connect to the ignition power, and that is this guy right here, our freaking alternator. This is a signal wire that goes to the alternator that tells it to activate and, you know, come on inside of there and charge your battery. So it's just this one single wire, and it also needs ignition power. If it has constant power like it did before, and that's the reason why it always killed my battery, then yeah, it'll always be on and it will kill your battery. Trust me, from experience, I know this. Anyhow, so now I need to, I already pulled this wire out. This was going in there and was connected to the old fuse box on the old harness. One of these, which is this one. This one right here is ignition power. So I need to unloom this, and I'm gonna run it up with the rest of this stuff nice and clean and run it to that stud, so that then anything else that I put on this stud with it will be getting ignition power. So I have one wire from the ECU that has to go there. We got to run this there, and then I've also got to run the alternator right there, and then yeah, everything that needs ignition power will have it. All right, we are reaching the home stretch here. We don't have too much more to do. We have the power harness. This is actually the power for the computer. So yeah, this plugs directly into the computer, and then you just have the positive and a negative. This has to run directly to the battery, and it's super long, luckily, because my battery is all the way in the back. And then I've also got the wideband O2 sensor that I've got to put in down there and plug it in. I've also got to put my starter back in. Starter's back in, and I got the wideband O2 sensor swapped out. And then there is the wiring for it. And as you can see, it's up away from the exhaust. And I have it wrapped up with baling wire, so we don't have to worry about it becoming brittle and falling off. If that was a zip tie, and if it was to get brittle and crack, that wiring would fall straight down onto my exhaust pipe. And that'd be bad. All right, now the only thing that we have left to run is our power wire. Like I mentioned earlier, this has to go straight to the battery, and they include some little crimp-on connections and as well as some shrink wrap. So I'm gonna go ahead and pop that on right now. I already know that I don't want to cut any length off of this. I'm gonna leave it full length because I'm not going to route it in its final location today. I'm just gonna kind of route it through the truck to the back to my battery just to get this process done. There's gonna be a lot of finalizing to this that I'm gonna have to do another day, but I'm just trying to get this done so I can post the video up for you guys, and I'm excited to get the first start already. All right, our harness is connected directly to my battery, and like I said, I'm just tossing this through the truck for the time being. I'm gonna have to finalize all this stuff later. There's a lot of things I'm gonna have to finalize. So I have the screen hooked up already. Everything is hooked up underneath there. There's the wiring. It's all tied up nice and tight up against the firewall, and all of the stuff that I had to run, like all the power wires and ignition wire and stuff, ignition power wires, fuel pump, grounds, all that. Instead of cutting those wires super short, I did a couple coils of them and zip tied them together and then ran them to where they need to go, so that if I ever have to redo anything, reconfigure it or something, I still have a decent length of wiring there. And then here is our power wire. I just have it running up in through the dash, and I did decide that I am going to mount the ECU inside of here where the stereo goes. I need to make a plate for that, and that is what leads me into all the finalization of stuff that I'm gonna have to do. So I want to make a plate for here, which will be in the future, something that's gonna hold the ECU. For the time being, I'm just gonna set it here, but I want it to be where I'm capable of seeing those lights in case I need them for troubleshooting things. And then I have the little screen. It's all plugged in, and I have all the extra wire. I just have it ran straight to where it plugs in on the harness, and all the extra wire I'm going to coil up nice and clean, put a zip tie around it, and it's going to sit right in behind here where I will eventually mount the screen. But once again, I need to go out there and find one of my little AC control things, and then I'm gonna have to make a plate for it and make a little mount for this so that it has a place to live. All the little button up stuff that we will do in the future, I'm just not gonna get to in this video. But now it's time. I have all my harnesses coming out of here where it is I want the ECU to sit. They tell you not to hook up the power until absolutely everything else is hooked up. So we're gonna go ahead and plug these in and then plug the power into the ECU, and it's time to go ahead and hit this ignition. We got to go through the setup. All right, here comes the big moment. Just gotta hit the key on, and then if everything's hooked up correctly, this should just fire right up, man. Oh, that lit up. That lit up. Dun dun dun. Please run the wizard or load a calibration. Here we go. I gotta go find my little stylus. Alright, I think I have all the information put in. The hardest thing was finding the serial number on my fuel injectors. The serial number that's on the injectors that are in there right now, it doesn't have it in the wizard. So I have another set of injectors that came off the exact same engine out of the exact same vehicle, but it had this serial number, so I entered those. I plan on switching to these injectors anyhow, but hopefully that don't create a problem. Cycle the ignition to complete the operation. Fuel pump's coming on. Alright, I gotta do the TPS, auto set. Make sure ignition is on and engine is not started. Start. Press slowly, pedal to the floor, then slowly release. Do this twice. TPS auto set was successful. Done. Does that mean it's ready to start or what? Tell me what to do, wizard! First try! Oh, bro. This sounds better than what it did before.
This thing's idling good.
Yeah.
This sounds so much better.
I just started it for the first time.
Right now?
Right now, yeah.
It sounds freaking good.
It fired up like immediate. And it idled kind of high, then it brought it down. Man, your boy's actually gonna be able to see what his temperature of his freaking truck is. I gotta put my fuses back in. So, I did not hook my fans up to the Holley right now because I had to redo all the wiring. The signal for the Holley is a ground, and I have the signal right now as a power, and it's already wired up, like separate from everything else. So my fans right now, they come on with the ignition. I do want to change that, so that's something we're gonna do in the future. I got a lot of future stuff I gotta do to finalize all this, but bro, there it is. Yeah, dude, it's looking good, sounding good. What's our temperature at? 158. That's so sick. And I could actually see RPM. Now if I just knew how fast I was going whenever I'm going down the street, it would be good.
Yeah, that was my one problem too. I never knew how fast I was going.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna mount the ECU here.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna make a plate and close this off and paint it and stuff, you know, and I just want to mount the ECU to where this sticks out the front so I can see the lights.
Yeah.
But then I want it to be easily to open up if I need to access it, you know.
Access it all, yeah.
I haven't ran the power wire yet. I just have it on the floor, run it back to the battery. I gotta find my AC control thing right here and make a plate, and I'm gonna make a thing to where this just mounts here.
Yeah.
I was thinking about just making a plate and on the back of this putting like a GoPro mount type thing and just having a shoe right here, like a GoPro mount.
Yeah.
That I just mount this thing up, and then I can order off of Amazon one of those little swiveling ones, so I can kind of like put it up here and like swivel it a little bit.
True.
That'd be kind of sick. Anyhow, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and close the video here, man. This now the Holley was super easy to install, but this took me 3 days, and it wasn't like because it was difficult. It was just because I was trying to make everything clean and take my time and make sure that I do everything right, which clearly I did. This thing fired up on the first try.
I told him from the jump, I was like, brother, the Holley's so easy, but when you get OCD about it, is what takes the longest. So that's what takes the longest.
Yeah, the wiring came out super clean.
I believe it.
There's a little bit of routing on the engine harness that's gonna change, but like I said, we gotta, and those grounds on the back, I don't have them going to the heads. I have them going to the block, but like I said, we're gonna pull all this apart once again, because we gotta do a cam. I got a lot of stuff to do to this thing.
I set up a two-step real quick.
Really?
Let's do it.
How do you do it?
It needs activation.
What do you mean?
So on one of those little signal wires, it needs to be used up for activation.
Oh.
Yeah.
I don't know. But we're gonna finalize all this in another video and do some driving and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I hope you guys are excited about the Holley being on the Blazer. That's step one, bro. We gotta do that before we do the cam and all that. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do smash the like button. Peace, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Yeah, I guess later,
I
Rughead.
the video, but I'll say bye, guys.
Later.